We are the Lancaster County Democrats, and our guest today is Janet Stewart. She's chaired the Nebraska Democratic Party's Women's Caucus. And Janet, to follow up on what we were talking about, you were talking about how you've seen the profession of law change in recent years because of women's participation. Can you tell us maybe what some of the priorities, how maybe that the quality of that dialogue has changed? What kinds of issues now come up that wouldn't have come up before?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I don't know if I've really looked at it from that perspective before. I mean, I can say from my own practice and what's important to me. I mean, I have become very much interested in child welfare issues.
Okay.
And that's something that I think is important to many women. And I think there's need for reform in that regard. And so having more women in the legal profession, I think, is going to put a spotlight on that and maybe move that issue along a little bit more. I mean, basically, I come in as a lawyer, but I've also been a mother. And so, I mean, you know, I do have, speaking from, you know, that place where I came from in my own life, I think gives me a perspective that maybe others wouldn't, as other attorneys don't necessarily have, depending on their background.
Yeah. I think that also for me, I think that income issues are more important to women. I mean, I think there's a sensitivity, a compassion, and to people who might not have the ability to earn as much money or have had things happen to them that maybe we haven't seen in the past. I think it's helpful. Anyway, so you went and you told us some about how women should be better represented. How do you see that dialogue on a national level? How we have Nancy Pelosi now. Do you think she's changed how the national dialogue is?
Well, I think she's changed it to a certain extent because she speaks in a woman's voice about issues. I mean, I think the political landscape, and particularly in the United States Congress, is really a challenging place to try to affect change. I think the problem is, as far as women trying to, you know, break through that glass ceiling, is that you need to be able to marshal an enormous amount of resources in order to be even credited with being a candidate for an office like that. I mean, you can run for an office, but if the establishment, be it the political parties and the interest groups, if they don't think that you're going to be able to raise a lot of money and be a viable candidate, then they're not going to support you because you know their political aims are contingent on their backing the person that wins the election. So it seems like there's to me, for my own preference, there's a overemphasis on spending all your time trying to raise money and in order to get your message out, and not so much on talking about what it is you stand for, what you want to do, and what you believe in. And that's just continues to be a challenge. And you know, there have been some campaign finance reform laws passed, but it doesn't seem to have made a difference, like a real impact on that. So I mean, I think that's something that still needs to be addressed.
So do you think that's what's causing the disconnect between Congress in the United States? Because, you know, when we look at the opinion polls, people are as upset with Congress as they are the president, almost, not quite. You know, a little bit more positive for Congress there. But it's not, you know, there's a lot of people who are very tired of business as usual.
Oh, absolutely. And part of it is we have this gridlock that has really crippled us, you know, in recent years. And I think that's, in many respects, it's because the country is equally divided on issues. And when we elect a president, the winner gets about 50% of the vote. And so it's like there's really been no motivation to try to work in a bipartisan fashion or try to reach a compromise. I mean, it's all a question of winning or losing. And we're looking at the next election. And so we have to moderate our views according to what the voters want to hear us say And sometimes, you know, the money is a factor there too. And so I think, from my perspective, it would be better if, you know, people would stand up for who they are and then just let the voters either say yes or no, and not try to always accommodate their financial and you know, support groups by the way that they communicate, to be more honest in their communications. But I have to say, having been a candidate, I know that's a great temptation to try to, you know, when you're going to stand up and explain your position on the issue, you're going to say, well, I have to be careful not to alienate this group, or, you know, this group that are my good supporters, this is what they're wanting me to say. And so it's almost like a lot of our politicians are censoring their own voice. And I think the public senses that. I mean, they want to see somebody's authentic. And sometimes they'll vote for someone who appears to be authentic, even if, you know, they really are not. I would say President Bush probably fell into that category.
Yeah, the authenticity,
Yeah, they
down
thought
home feeling, but not really
yeah,
there.
yeah.